Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. And yes, just got off work, checked my phone, and what do you know? A new Leprechaun movie is in the works. So, if you've been on the channel for a minute, Luke and I had to cover this, and we had to cover it so badly it warrants its own video. Why, Luke? Well, I think it's safe to say you and I pretty big Leprechaun fans.
Oh, I think that's putting it mildly. I think the Leprechaun franchise is just something where it has so many fun tidbits in it. I mean, the original Leprechaun, that film, all-time classic. I mean,
Hmm.
we're both in agreement there. So many good things. And then, the other installments, I think there's fun to be had with a lot of them, even in space to an extent. So, and they tried to, I guess it was a direct sequel a couple of years ago, and that
Hmm.
really didn't get too much traction at all. So it just seemed like the Leprechaun franchise was pretty much dead in the water for a few years, and I don't even think we had any kind of potential news coming up. But then this gets dropped in our lap on a Friday afternoon. What a great way to close the week.
I know, right? And we thought maybe the first thing that went in my head, of course, was Sunday Scaries, but then I'm like, no, I want to jump on this when this is fresh. I want to get this out there. And when it's a big franchise like this, and say what you will, Leprechaun, I think, is definitely a bigger horror icon than some people give him credit for. So I think that this warrants its own video. So if you look at the article here, I'll throw it up on screen. It's Lionsgate themselves are rebooting this franchise, and they've already selected a director with Felipe Vargas, who is known for what looks to be a short film called Milk Teeth. And did you look up below? Is that a short film as well?
That I did not look up,
I
unfortunately.
can
So
pull
I'm
that up for us while we're
not
talking.
entirely sure. I haven't. Milk Teeth was not on my radar. Unfortunately, I do plan on giving it a watch. I only got to catch a couple minutes before we hopped on here. I'll say the very beginnings of this thing has that eeriness that Leprechaun, the original Leprechaun, does have. Where he's kind of throwing his voice and where he's in the tree and doing all that stuff. So I could easily see this being a good pick, depending on what route they want to go with the Leprechaun franchise.
I definitely am curious to see what this gentleman has basically conjured for us here. So it looks like below isn't on his IMDb, but it does look like he's done a handful of shorts. So I don't know if that's something that he maybe just had a hand in. I'm not sure where they're pulling that from. But yeah, I can say that Milk Teeth is on here, so that is something that I will, like you said, have to check out. I know it came out in 2020. It's been very positively talked about. I know this isn't the first time that film has popped up on my radar. I have, certain friends and stuff who are into horror who have also said, oh, this is a really good short. So it's something that I will definitely be checking out here shortly to get a sense for just what Felipe can bring to the table.
Absolutely. And again, just going into this Leprechaun franchise here, I think Dylan mentioned as we opened up, maybe Leprechaun hasn't gotten his due 100%. I don't think in terms of horror icons, because at least from my perspective, the Leprechaun franchise was wildly influential into me diving into the horror realm throughout the 90s and just stuck with it. There is so much rewatch value in the actual franchise itself. So I'm so excited that they're actually going to be dusting off this property and trying to, bring something maybe completely original. I don't know what route they're going to. This is a franchise where, looking back on the David Gordon Green trilogy and so many eye rolls in there in terms of, I guess, tributes, nods, whatever you're going to say to all the installments. I think Leprechaun, I would be okay with a lot of nods and winks from cherry picking from the installments, just because there are so many good kills, and uh like the lore behind it is so fun that if you wanted to play some of the greatest hits throughout a new installment, or rebooting the franchise, whatever you want to do, I think I would be okay with that. But if they also want to kind of really stick with that darker tone, that I know the first one's kind of a horror comedy, but it really does lean a little more into horror than maybe later installments does. I think, if you want to go pure horror with this, with just a couple demented kind of comedic jokes, I think, that's great as well.
I agree. And, they say on here that this is going to be a reimagining of the franchise. So I don't know. That's kind of vague in the sense of, is this going to be connected in some way? I think, again, it doesn't hurt to always at least loop in the first, and I think for us, maybe the second film, in this franchise and somehow try to make those canon. They do confirm that Davis is not expected to reprise the role, which is a disappointment. But, things can change. It seems like it's still pretty in early development. They've at least announced a director and a writer. This is being written by a gentleman, Mike Van Ways, who I looked up on IMDb. He's credited for writing a lot of stuff that's coming out soon, but nothing that we've seen directly. He's credited with like the new Lilo and Stitch, a horror film called Dear David. So we'll have to see kind of where his skills lie as they go forward. But yeah, it's not too much in the article here, but it is exciting. I agree with you. I want them to kind of go back to the franchise a little bit, give us some winks and nods, but also I'm ready for a bigger budget kind of, reintroduction of the franchise here. I think that this is the perfect kind of, to most, a maybe lower B, C tier franchise in the horror space. So I'm not going to see myself being overly critical, as maybe I could be considered for something like a Halloween, where, it is so coveted. It is something that I do love this franchise, but I think that, if you want to take a creative spin on it, go for it. I think if you can do that, but don't go so crazy into like Leprechaun origin territory, because that just wasn't a great movie from the get. I see what they were trying to do with the Leprechaun itself, but it's just so far removed that it wasn't for me, and it wasn't for a lot of folks. I know, Luke, you still have to see that one, so we'll have to discuss it at some point. But yeah, I'm excited for this, man. I think that this is some really fun news. It's great to know that we're getting a new Leprechaun movie. I really, really hope that this is going to hit theaters. That's my big hope, is that, a couple St. Patrick's Days from now, we're going to be in line or right outside the theater, ready to go see the next installment in the Leprechaun franchise.
Yeah, and it's no secret Warwick Davis is just an absolute treasure portraying the Leprechaun. But if they bring in someone else, I think maybe it is time, especially if they want some longevity in the franchise. So I wouldn't be against it. Obviously, you don't have to twist my arm to see Warwick Davis in some capacity in this reimagining of it, just to be able to see him. But again, there is a lot of fun to be had in the Leprechaun franchise. I second having this in the theater. I probably never would have guessed to actually go see a Leprechaun movie in the theater. So, if that does actually happen, I would be absolutely excited to actually sit down in the theater and be able to give this a viewing.
Yeah, and they do have a little bit of a write up here that I'll read for us. 30 years after its debut, the franchise still casts a spell, and we're thrilled to bring it back with a new vision. Aaron Westerman, president of production for Lionsgate Motion Pictures Group, said in a statement, Rory and Miri are two of the most trusted producers, especially with this genre. We're excited by Felipe's vision for the film as a director. In his hands, this movie should be very scary and a ton of fun. So yeah, that's I'm happy. I know it's PR speak, but yeah, I like this. There's a couple of really good signs here. Number one, I think, being that this is coming from somebody who has only done shorts. So the fact that this bigger studio like Lionsgate is putting so much trust into a first-time filmmaker here, who obviously must have come to them with a vision, or when they pitched it to him, he had a vision that they really liked. And I think getting some fresh blood in here, someone who's passionate and hungry, I think that's the best way to go. And I'm super excited to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a wild card a little bit, I think, just because we don't know too much about the director as well as the writer. But I think this one is lining up to have a lot of potential in it. I'm very excited for it, so I can't wait to see it.
Absolutely. But alrighty, guys, it's going to wrap us up here for the Leprechaun news. So thanks for stopping by. Let us know what you guys are looking forward to with this Leprechaun reboot. Is this something that kind of caught you off guard, but you're excited for? Or are you one of these people who's just like, no, the Leprechaun franchise is dead. We don't need to touch it. Let me know down below in the comments. We'll definitely be engaging on this one for sure. I'm sure we'll be throwing back theories. And yeah, I definitely think we'll be keeping up on this. So the more Leprechaun news we get, the more you can expect us to report on it. Other than that, we got a lot of great stuff on the channel. We just put up a review for the movie The Flash, which I know is not a horror film, but we do have a big announcement in there kind of talking about our new channel, our second channel, rebooting an old fun thing we used to do back in the day. So definitely check that video out so that way you can know what's going on and where we're standing with that. And as well as check out some of our other stuff. I just interviewed the directors of the new, I almost said Wes Craven, Robert Englund documentary. I just spoke with those two gentlemen about their work. It's awesome, a lot of fun. Please check those videos out. And yeah, that about wraps us up. So until next time, I am Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.